What a performance from Song Yadong. TKO's Ricky Simón in the 5th round of the fight. After many interesting exchanges, so he was able to find the left hook a few times throughout the fight, landing it flush on Ricky Simón with beautiful technique, amazing footing to line up the shot perfectly, and you could definitely tell it was the main weapon he was looking for. Throughout the whole thing, there were a lot of left hooks, and usually came as a counter. If it didn't come as a counter, it came for him to set up his right hand, but that was actually pretty problematic for Song Yadong to keep Ricky Simón up against the fence, because it was a very specific kind of fight. There was a lot of things that Song Yadong had to do specifically in order to land his shots. He needed Ricky Simón to be as close to the fence as possible. He had to back him up because Ricky Simón is a very aggressive fighter by nature. He's a guy that always pressures his opponents backwards, and he's out of his element if you're able to push him back, which you saw in the fight. What did Ricky Simón do whenever he was pushed back? He would either throw jabs forward, and that usually got countered by Song Yadong's right overhand. That was a routine thing in the fight where Song was timing the jab, slipped his head on the inside very quickly, and tried to throw that right overhand. If you look through the whole fight, this was a thing that Song Yadong was doing specifically to counter that jab, but sometimes it would land on Song, and it actually proved to be Ricky Simón's biggest, most successful weapon in the fight, even though it wasn't super successful, which tells you how dominant Song actually was. The reason why sometimes Simón's jab was landing was because Song would lead with his head sometimes, and you saw a couple headbutts happen as he leaned in head first, and with that habit of his, he was also getting caught by the jab to the head. The headbutts were pretty bad. I mean, Song Yadong definitely has to stop doing that sometimes. I mean, I understand he wants to engage with heavy pressure and sometimes take off those angles, but he almost got caught by a couple knees, and if you were questioning why Ricky Simón in the 4th round onward was throwing fly knees, was because he was trying to catch Song leading with his head, where Simón was not doing that previously before the 4th round. But the pressure was the main thing for Song Yadong, 100%. This is exactly what he needed to do to diminish Ricky Simón's effectiveness and also make the takedowns a lot more obvious as well. The only times that Song was getting taken to the ground was when he was overcommitting with his punches, when he was trying to land the big power hand and force a knockout. When he just allowed it to happen, he was in total control of the fight. But when he would throw big right hands, that's when Ricky Simón had the opening to go under those and get that takedown. That was the main way Ricky Simón was having success with the takedowns, but he wasn't able to hold Song on the ground that long. Any other time, whether Song is backing up or he's not overcommitting with his punches, he was able to fend off all the takedowns and made it look very easy as well, which is promising moving forward in his career. So as we talked about, the jab from Ricky Simón was one way he was able to relieve the pressure from Song, but most of the time that jab was getting countered. The other way was just simply exiting out. Now, this would only be successful. He was only able to rotate away from the cage and the pressure from Song when Song would overcommit. So not only did overcommitting get Song Yadong taken to the ground, but also gave a window for Ricky Simón to get away from the pressure and back to the center of the cage to fight for dominance. And you know what's pretty funny, what's pretty interesting? Ricky Simón actually found the answer. He actually found the perfect way to get Song Yadong to move backwards. And he did it only once. While he's on the back foot trying to find a way to get out of this, he wants to get away from the cage. One time, he threw a right straight to the chest. And interesting enough, Song Yadong tried to counter with the left hook, right? So it's the punch that he was giving Ricky Simón a lot of problems with, and it missed. And he punched Song away from him. When you punch someone in the chest, it's going to force their whole body a certain direction. And look at the space between them two. This is enough space for Simón to get out of there. And he could have kept doing something like this or even build upon that, like someone with really good striking would do, right? Like Alex Pereira or Israel Adesanya. Like these guys, if they found this right straight to the chest actually to work, to relieve some of the pressure from the opponent, they would not only be throwing that more, but they would build upon that, like setting up with his left hand or feinting or something like that, you know? And he can even mix up with his takedowns, knowing that Simón has wrestling to him. But he never did it again. He just kept trying to rotate out with his footwork instead of throwing that right straight to the chest again. And the reason why it caused Song Yadong's left hook to miss was because attacking the chest is a closer target than attacking the head when Song is trying to counter with the left hook, because he's bringing his head back away. His chest is still going to be in the same position, so it's a closer target to hit, and Simón can easily just retract and move away from the left hook and then scale out, right? And then rotate out to his right side. So he had the answer, but he didn't even realize that he did. That was only happening from the 1st to the 3rd round. Like midway throughout the 3rd, all the way to the finish, Song Yadong switched up a bit. he didn't try to commit with the right hand as much. He was much more patient, and he started relying more on feints and sometimes teeps to keep Ricky Simón on the back foot. This time, he's not throwing the left hands to line up his big right. Now he's being a lot more intricate with small movements to get Ricky Simón to back up, because he knew at that point, from talking to his corner, as well as feeling how the fight was playing out, that finding the big shot on someone who was so defensive was not going to be easy. He had to make Ricky Simón come out of his shell instead of trying to force him out of his shell. So willingly, Ricky Simón had to be the one to expose his chin. And that was the way that Song Yadong was able to find those left hooks and hurt him. Instead of finding the big right hand moving forward, he had to counter with his own left, waiting for Simón to get so uncomfortable on the back foot, where his chin is going to be left open for him. And just like you saw throughout the whole thing, Song had an excellent ability to slip punches. He was slipping on the inside of the jab to throw the right overhand, and also from Ricky Simón's left hand, whether he's an orthodox or southpaw, because he saw each of those happen. Song Yadong was able to slip on the outside of the left hand to line up his left hook. So not only on the inside for his right hand to land, but also on the outside for his left hand to land. That's how much better he was than Ricky Simón when it came to the striking. He had the slipping on the same side hand from Ricky Simón, which was, by the way, the main thing that was working for him in the fight, to be completely negated because of Song's slipping ability. This happened multiple times throughout that whole fight, and even happened in the finishing sequence. As you can see, not only was Song slipping on the outside of the punch, notice how small his movements were to line up the shot. But before I get into that, there is one also very important distinction that we have to look at. It's actually very interesting. So, the biggest punch of the whole fight for Ricky Simón was a southpaw left straight when he was doubling up on a jab from each stance. As you can see here, he's moving forward finally, pumping jabs in the orthodox stance, switching to the southpaw, pump some jabs there to get Song Yadong backing up, and then he lines up the left straight, catching Song Yadong unbalanced. Very good shot from him, right? Now let's look at that knockdown at the end of the 4th round. Notice something a little similar? In the orthodox stance, Ricky Simón's moving forward, pumps out a jab, throws a right straight and switches it into southpaw, feints 2 jabs, steps on the outside to land the left straight. This is very similar. Almost the same mindset he had when he landed that left straight before. But look at the difference in Song's stance. He's not unbalanced. He's not caught off guard. He hops back into stance. He drops his weight, generating all the power from his legs. And as you can see by him dropping his hands, he already knew where the left straight was going to come. Slips right on the outside of it, did not need a guard. He was so confident in dodging that punch, showing that he saw it a mile away, slips on the outside of the punch and lands a beautiful left hook on the inside. That was a perfect adjustment from the last time he got caught there to knocking him down from Song Yadong. Now we look at the finishing sequence. Ricky Simón throws out the jab and grazes Song. As he slips on the inside of it, throws that right overhand. The reason why I actually touched Song was because both guys are moving forward at each other, right? Which is shortening the distance. And the short amount of distance there was enough to catch Song a little bit unexpectedly, touching him, but it didn't really cause any kind of damage. Still slipped through an overhand that misses as Ricky Simón leans away from the punch. Now this was a little bit of Simón's undoing here. He had to do something to get away from that big right overhand because it was just there to connect on his chin, and he moved into it. So he not only moved forward at Song, he also moved to his own left, which is a natural motion when you're throwing an orthodox jab like this. So that lean back is going to force Song to plant himself in order to reestablish his stance. And instead of trying to move away, he thinks he has an opening on Song by throwing a right straight, and Song slips on the outside of it by rolling and pivoting with his own right overhand. So look at the angle now he has on Ricky Simón. It was a big difference in how these two were getting into their stances. And it was not a big movement for Song Yadong. It was a quite small movement that lined up a perfect angle for himself, and they both throw their left hands. Now this shows the difference in striking ability from these two. Look at their stances when they're both throwing their left hands at each other. What do you notice about their feet? They both have to angle and face each other, right? Song Yadong is in his balanced, powerful stance here, leaning into his front leg, ready to throw all the power into his left hook, while Ricky Simón is in the parallel stance. His legs are side to side with each other, and he's uncorking a left straight from this parallel stance, which is going to have a lot of power, but there's no way for him to defend himself. This parallel stance is a completely offensive position, and as you know from Song, He has a great ability to slip on the outside of that left hand, and just like he did there, connect it clean with his left hook. As Ricky Simón took the wrong stance, did not know how to get back to orthodox from there, which is another distinction of the striking difference between the two fighters. And ultimately, that's the end of the breakdown, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to give this a like and subscribe. Song Yadong definitely has to fight another top 5 fighter, so he's number 8. He just beat number 10 Ricky Simón. He had a close fight with Corey Sandhagen, who's looking amazing right now, and anything really makes sense for him. I would love to see him fight Chito again, the rematch. I'd like to see him fight Petr Yan. I would love to see him fight Sean O'Malley, Merab Dvalishvili, who's kind of holding up the division right now. Even Rob Font. I mean, anybody in the top 5 right now makes perfect sense for Song Yadong, and it would be a very fun fight to watch. Maybe not so much with the Merab matchup, but maybe. I mean, because Song shows some good takedown defense in this one with Simón, and he has the kind of power to put Merab out with one shot. Probably a better chance than anybody else has in the top 5. So Song Yadong at a very young age is in a perfect position right now, and this guy's only going to keep getting better.